Hey there, friends. David Paulides, Gaine Missing Project. This is Huck TV. She is the executive producer of the show, and she's here with us right now. Right, Huck? What a good girl you are. Yeah. Tell the fans. There's a whole bunch of people out there wanting to see you. Yeah. They're saying, oh, Huck's so pretty. Huck's so pretty, yeah. Yeah, that's it. Look at the camera and tell them. That's it. Yeah, it's a good girl. Yeah, it's a good girl. Okay, friends. Let's get on to it because this is a biggie segment. It's going to take us some time to get through. And, friends, what I'm going to tell you, you guys will not believe it. The Kickstarter campaign. Yes, Kickstarter. Our next movie is Missing 411 National Parks. Go to Kickstarter.com, type in National Parks, it'll take you there. But you won't believe what I'm going to tell you. So we met our goal, $145,000. Every dollar above that, do more special effects, do more segments on missing people, go to a different park, do things that we hadn't planned on doing. Well, we were at about $170,000. And one person had purchased two $10,000 segments, contributions, because they wanted to be in the film. Well, that's outstanding. About 6 days later, Kickstarter all of a sudden just takes that money right out of our contribution level. Never says anything. The person who contributed the money gets to me and says, hey, Kickstarter just took my funds away and took my account away. This is all true, folks. I'm not making it up because I contacted Kickstarter. And I said, you never told me that you took this money away, but why did you take it? Oh, we're trying to show our due diligence because we don't want you to suffer if that contribution level isn't met at the end. I said, do you have any reason to believe that this person isn't going to make that payment? Well, no, but we're just being diligent about it. I said, but I had a $10,000 level. They didn't respond. I said, then I asked them again, so every $10,000 contribution, are you going to cancel it like that? They didn't answer. They knew I was upset, so they proactively now contact the contributor of the money. And they made this person prove that they had the money to spend. I have never heard of such a thing. Ever. Ever. We did this on the first Kickstarter, on the first movie, and there were 4 people who contributed $10,000 in that one. They never did this. It's very suspicious. Very suspicious. So, through the kindness of this person who made this contribution, we had talked offline through email, and they said, hey Dave, if they don't reinstate it, I'll just send you a cashier's check. But this is really, it's obscene. It is obscene to do this to somebody who's trying to help you. I still can't believe it. I said, is this your policy? Oh yeah, it's our policy. I'm thinking, this is nuts. It's none of their business how much money somebody has and if they want to donate or contribute to a cause. It is none of their business. I would agree, I don't want to take anybody's last dollar, obviously. I want to make sure somebody's very well off if they're going to donate, or it's not a donation, if they want to contribute at that level. I don't know where Kickstarter gets off doing this. But I'm still very upset about it. But the person who made that contribution, I look forward to meeting you. You'll be in the movie. All right, let's get down to business. This next case is still going on, folks. It's still, before I go on to that, you have about 6 or 7 days from the time I made this video to still contribute to our Kickstarter campaign. So, if you haven't yet, you can still go in there and do it. And thank you. So, This case is in Ireland. The more I got into this, the more confusing it got, and the more interested I became. And when Dave is interested, hold your taters, because something good is going to come out of it. The man's name is Mike Gaine. This is Mike. 56 years old, missing March 20th, 2025. He's from Kenmare, Ireland, married to Janice, no kids. Born and raised in the general area, his family has owned property there for several generations. His parents lived just down the road from where he lived with Janice. He had no kids, and he has 2 sisters. Now, in 1987, I went way back on this, a certain family member gifted Mike a large piece of land to farm. And in Ireland, they call a farm when you're raising cows and sheep. And here we call it a ranch. So the best I could tell, he wasn't growing any crops like a farmer would, but it's semantics. So that was in 87. 8 years later, 1995, Mike's uncle John, who he was close to, added to the land that he had. And when he disappeared on March 20th, he had 1,000 acres. He was land wealthy. Now, Mike's mom was a woman named Sheila. She was the matriarch of the family. She'd always ran operations for the sheep and the cows, did a lot of the work with the men. And at times, they had up to 600 sheep on the property. And Mike and his mom were the primary operators of all of this function. And that's a lot of work, folks. Now, in February of 2024, Mike's mom, Sheila, died, leaving everything to Mike. Now, Mike and his wife lived just 3 kilometers outside of Kenmare, real close. And then the house that belonged to his mom and his dad were just a little further down the road where the major farm was at. Now, the farm is located on an old glacial valley, and Kerry National Park is located just north of the farm. I'll explain this to you. So this is the town of Kenmare right here. This is like the ocean, salt water here. Kerry East is where Mike lived and where the farm was at. So he lived right about in this area. Farm is right about this area, just a little further down the road, just south of Moll's Gap, and the national park is right up in this area. The primary water for the city of Kenmare came from the farm because of this continuous water source. And people said that Mike was very agreeable to supplying the water for the city. There was never an issue with it, ever. Now, Mike was in generally good health. He had a couple of bad knees. And everyone said, his friends said, that he never liked to walk anywhere. He mostly rode a quad everywhere. I'm not making this up. I know you guys think I do, but I'm not making it up. Friends said, neighbors said, acquaintances said, that when anybody ever needed help, Mike was the one to volunteer to help. Now, he was a wealthy man in land, not in cash. And you'd never know it. He wasn't one to flaunt it. He and his wife drove a 9-year-old RAV4. And they described Mike as being the hardest worker. Up every day, early, stayed up late, taking care of the animals. But he wasn't mechanical. And when a tractor broke, everyone said, Mike didn't have it fixed, he just went and bought a new one. Well, a few years ago, Mike had met a U.S. military veteran from Afghanistan, and the man needed a place to stay. And Mike allowed him to stay on an old shack on the property. And it was old, it was dilapidated. The military man, sounds like he had PTSD. He rarely ever left the property. And in return, he fixed the things mechanically that needed to be fixed. Now that was a good mix because Mike wasn't that way. So besides Mike and his wife and this military guy, there really wasn't much else left to help on the farm. Now, I need you to pay attention to how I'm going to describe this because it's important to understand it in entirety. March 19th. Mike went into Kenmare, drove his wife's RAV4 from their house to the farm, and he was a man of routine. Every day up at the same time doing the same thing. Well, March 19th, he did that, went to the farm, and then went into town, and he tried on a new pair of boots. One pair was inexpensive, and one pair was pricey. And the person helping him said that Mike told the clerk, "I'm going to take the cheap pair." And she said, "Yeah?" And he goes, "Yeah, I don't have far to go." And she just said she didn't know what that meant. Was that because he drove a quad everywhere and he didn't like to walk? She wasn't sure. But he was always in town at the same time. Keep that in mind. March 20th, the next day, 7 a.m. Wife said Mike's always up early, just as normal. He got out real early, no earlier than normal, and fed the sheep. And at 7:15, he drove into Kenmare, and he stopped at the Mart and Co-op. And that's a location where people from throughout the area bring their cows and sheep, and they auction them off. Mike always liked to go in there in the morning, see what the price people were getting, see what was being sold. He never stayed long. People said they saw his car there, but they never really saw him. It's a hectic place. He did this all the time. Well, after that, he drove down to a place called Dan McCarthy's Farm and Grocery Supply. And he went in there and he bought cattle and sheep food. And that was the place where he always bought his supplies for his animals. And there was a cashier there he was friends with. And the store wasn't real busy, so they stopped. And the cashier said, "Hey, how about a cup of tea?" He said, "Sure." So he sat around for, I don't know, almost 45 minutes and drank tea, and they just talked. This person said Mike was completely normal. It was a completely normal conversation, typical day. He wasn't in a hurry. He was congenial. He's always friendly. You got it. So at 8:15 he left. And between 8:15 and 9:45, nobody knows where he went, which is abnormal. Some people said he might have drove down to the ocean and watched the waves. Nobody was quite sure. But at 9:45, he stops at a place called White's Store and Gas. You know, a big gas station where they sell all kinds of things, and you get your gas, get your coffee, stuff. Well, he purchased a lunch roll from the deli, and he took that up and he bought a phone credit card, and he was caught on CCTV walking down the aisle. And everyone said every day you could tell Mike walking around by his bright orange cap, knit cap. That's Mike. Walking down the aisle, and he was going to pay for his lunch roll and his phone card. Nothing unusual. Typical day. Sighting. That was the last sighting of Mike. 9:45 a.m. at the White Store and gas station in Kenmore. Now, he was driving his wife's RAV4, okay? So from Kenmore, he drove past his house up to the farm. Again, 100% normal, because he had to work at the farm. He wasn't going back to the house, didn't need to. His day was at the farm. Now, apparently, and it's all guessing right now, he drove the car to the farm, closed the gate behind him, parked the car, and left his wallet and his phone cards and his phone on, and the partial roll he was eating on the front seat. Now, the drive from the gas station to where he was, not even 5 minutes, 10 minutes max. Now, he had, this proved that he was planning for the future because he bought food for his animals. And he demonstrated that he wasn't in a hurry because he sat and had tea with a friend. Now, let me explain something. People who want to drop out of society, people who are suicidal, that isn't the behavior. Because once you make that decision in your mind, you're on a task to get it done. Now, there's stories out there where people do act abnormally and do strange things. But Mike's behavior is not normal. Now, at 8 p.m., Mike didn't come home to Janice, his wife. She thought maybe there was an emergency with a sick animal. He was taking care of it. Things happen on the farm, you know. But he didn't come home all night. And the next morning, Janice called and reported him as a missing person. Remember, he had her car, so she didn't have a car. Now, Mike was known by everybody in the community. The town of Kenmore got their water from Mike's property, so everyone knew him. And like I said, he was a man of habit. He went into the town every morning, spoke to the same people, had the same behavior. Now, friends said that Mike had parked the car on the farm in an unusual location. I looked all over for clarity about that. What was unusual about it? Where did he usually park? Where did he park now? It was never said. And he closed the gate to the property. Nobody said that that was abnormal. And friends and work associates all said that Mike was very diligent about checking on his animals, making sure they were healthy, feeding the animals 2 to 3 times a day. Now, if you've never been on a farm, you have 300 sheep. One sheep gets sick, they could all get sick. So there's this constant monitoring going on that you got to make sure they're all okay. Now, sheep are pretty self-sufficient. Cows, you got to kind of pay attention to. So Janice calls police March 21st. They go down, they check the farm, they find the car, they find the things in the car. Police decide that the 22nd they're going to have a full-fledged search and rescue. And initially they focused on the area around the car. They knew that Mike had bad knees. He was 56 years old. Maybe he had some kind of medical emergency. Nobody really knew, but that was the presumption early on. Now, it was about a 9-minute drive from Kenmore to the farm on a small 2-lane road without many residences. The area around his farm was initially grid searched in a small proximity to the car. March 23rd, the area of the search is expanded. This time the fields are searched with drones and helicopters and 200 volunteers and ATVs. Not finding anything. March 24th, search and rescue was put into a large room at the Killarney Guard Station. It was getting huge press throughout Ireland. People initially thought that it'd be easy to find Mike, especially from the air, because of his bright orange cap. But people also knew that Mike had spent essentially a lifetime on this property. Any idea that he was lost? Ridiculous. That's why they all thought he had to have fallen down somewhere. Now, the idea that he would try to cross a marsh and get stuck? Ridiculous. But now it was the 24th. Nobody had taken care of the cows in 3 days, 4 days. And so friends jumped in and took care of the sheep and the cows. The wife couldn't do it, didn't know how to do it. They didn't have any sons or relatives. They didn't have any sons or daughters, rather. So the 25th search and rescue continues, and it expands, gets bigger. And the community started to talk about foul play. There were a lot of rumors. Most of them wouldn't be talked about in the press, but they said there were a lot of rumors. Some of them were that somebody took out Mike. But nobody could understand that because nobody knew he had any enemies. And remember, the gate to the farm was closed. And there were no other cars in there. So what the police did is they went to the community, and every day they had a press conference. If anybody was on this road at this time, we want to know, did you have your car camera on? Did you see anything strange? Did you see Mike's car? Did you see anybody following Mike's car? March 26th, search and rescue continues to expand. Janice was forced to make decisions about the animals, because now they had to pay people to take care of the animals. The 27th through the 31st of March, the police said they described this as one of the biggest search and rescues in Ireland's history. Mike was a community figure. Kept to himself, was friendly. You know, there's probably 10 people in a community like this that everyone knows. If the water for the city is coming from that property, you probably know this man. Now, land-wise, he was wealthy. Dollars and cents-wise, probably not so wealthy. Driving a 9-year-old car. Just being a man of the land, taking care of his animals. And everyone said that he had a deep affection for taking care of his animals. Now, that man I was telling you about from the U.S., a soldier, police interviewed him. And he actually assisted on the search every day. Police said he was emotionally disturbed over Mike's disappearance because he couldn't understand it. Now, as the search continued to go out, the police, well, first of all, let me show you this. Mike and Janice's house is down this road this way towards the city. This is a picture of his mom and dad's home. Now, they're deceased now, but they lived right across the street from where the major part of the farm was at. This is their barn and things, and this is the access road into that area. They owned a lot of property, folks. A lot. Now this Again, this is where they lived, right where that creek goes through. That was where the farm was at, right where that creek goes through. Water all over this area, water up here, park is up here, and they kept expanding out. Now, realistically, outside this farm area is undeveloped area. This was developed, obviously, undeveloped. So the police are out searching one day, and they said that they found a small cave. And inside this wasn't on Mike's property. And inside the cave they found weapons, and they didn't say what kind of weapons they found other than a bow and arrow. I don't know what the laws are in Ireland. They said that they confiscated the weapons, but it had no relevance to the search. Okay, I get it. But it was interesting they said it. I'm going to guess that it has no relevance to Mike either. Doesn't seem like the type of guy to be into that. So, March 29th and 30th, the local police had contacted the military and stated that they needed extra assistance. The military responded. And they came in and they searched all the marshes, rivers, creeks. They sent divers into the ponds, lakes, creeks. They cleared everything. They all hear you. They know you're here. Well, with the military being there, they had hundreds of people on scene, and they kept grid searching it out. Then they come back, start again. At where the car was parked, go out. I watched some footage that they were actually going through piles of rocks looking. They were doing a good job. Well, they were also getting assistance from the Kerry Mountain Rescue and Dog Team, Kerry Fire Rescue, the Irish Coast Guard, Civil Defense. Now the Coast Guard, has FLIR. So they go up higher and they get a bigger view. They're gonna see a body, if there was a body there. And the police, they actually brought the detectives out, and the detectives interviewed 100 people. And this is how they found out the little idiosyncrasies that last day that Mike went into the city. But my question is, that hour and a half that they couldn't account for, what was he doing? Now, people saw him afterwards. When he went to the gas station, everything seemed normal. So, what was he doing? It didn't upset him that much. Police also reviewed 1,500 hours of closed-circuit TV, trying to see if anybody was following Mike, if he had any altercations, was his behavior normal, etc. Everything seemed normal. Now, April 3rd rolls around. Remember I told you this is a small community. And every day Mike would go down to the auctioneer at Kenmore Mart, where they auction off sheep and cattle, and he would step in to see what was going on. And eventually when he sold his sheep and cattle, that's where he would sell them. Well, April 2nd, the family had already put the works into motion to sell some of his livestock because they had to pay somebody to take care of their farm. So they brought in 8 of Mike's best cows. And the auctioneer was one of Mike's best friends. And the article said that before the auctioneer could start, he was tearing up. His voice was cracking. And he said, "Folks, we've lost somebody in our community. It hurts me to auction away what he raised, what he loved. It was a beautiful thing to say. Mike had 22 cows left after they auctioned off 8, and he still had 300 sheep on a 1,000-acre farm. Friends, that's a lot of work for anybody. At the time I'm making this video, the searches were still going on. Unbelievable amount of effort. I honestly cannot remember a search that's gone on this long that wasn't for a child. But you know what that tells me? It's what the community thought of this man. So, April 3rd through the 10th, the search continued. And the police decided to close that road from Kenmare up towards Mike's house. And what they did is they set up roadblocks, and they wanted to interview the people driving up and down the road. You know, did they have a camera in their car? Were they driving on the road the day Mike disappeared? Is it possible they caught anything? Did they see anything unusual? Blah-de-blah-de-blah, right? They never said what they found from that. And maybe they found nothing. Police did do an interview with the press, and the commander stated that there's nothing like this in Ireland's last 30 years, as far as the intensity of a search and the length. Police reiterated what all of his friends stated, is that they didn't believe Mike voluntarily would walk away. Okay. You know, I don't put a lot of emphasis on that because there's so many people who have taken their lives and nobody could believe it. Oh, I can't believe he'd do that. I never thought he'd do that. That's what you hear over and over and over. But let's walk through his morning one more time real quick and hit the highlights, because I want to emphasize some things. Mike had tea and communicated with a friend in the morning of the disappearance. That's somebody who's not in a rush, wants to talk, be friendly, open. The friend said he was completely normal. Mike left his wallet, his phone, and the remains of his lunch roll on the front seat of the RAV4. Now, it was parked inside the farm behind a closed gate. Secure location? I'd say that's pretty secure. Would I do that? I'd probably do that. But I don't know what Mike's normal behavior with that stuff would be. Now, people said that Mike always carried his wallet on him. Well, if you saw me away from the house, I always carry my wallet on me too. But at the house or at the property, I never have my wallet on me. So him not having his wallet on him, I don't know. I just wouldn't find that strange. Canines brought to the scene, professional tracking canines brought to the scene, couldn't find him. Mike was in Kenmare at several locations. Something happened between Kenmare and that car, right? I believe he drove the car from Kenmare to the farm, parked it, closed the gate. Something happened. Point of separation. If you were going to voluntarily disappear and you wanted to go kill yourself, why would you buy phone cards? Why would you buy food for sheep and cows if you were going to go and take your life? Like I said, people that are going to do this, they don't want to be distracted. They want to go do it. If he was attached to the animals, as every friend and acquaintance stated, would he really walk away knowing that they're not going to be fed and taken care of? I've had people tell me that ranchers think of them like their kids. They take care of them like their kids. So the wallet in the car, all of his cash, ID, nothing was missing. When I was working this case up, I remember a few other cases kind of similar to this. One was a woman on the East Coast, alone, went into town to run some errands, and they found her car on another piece of property next to a pond. The window was halfway rolled down, and she wasn't there, but her things she was buying were all in the front seat with her purse. And between the car and the pond were shoes and some other things. Yeah, she was later found in the water. Nobody could explain how she got in the water, why she was in the water, or why she was even on the property. So as of April 12th, Mike hadn't been found. Search was still going on. This is one of those rare times where I'm going to talk about a case before it really has an ending, because nobody's called off the search. So I ask you, do you think Mike would have taken his life? And if he did, how did he do it? Why would he do it? Was he depressed because his mom died the month before? I don't know. Nobody said he acted depressed. Nobody said he acted overworked. Nobody said he acted strange at all. But then I go to another point. I say, well, when he got to that property, did he see something unusual? Because when a canine can't pick up your scent and track you, friends, that's not normal. I'm sorry, it's not normal. Which is one of the reasons it's a profile point. Now, Ireland has had a lot of UFO activity. A lot. But I don't know if that has anything to do with this. But I've got this feeling that if Mike is found, he's going to be found in an area that had been searched many times before. And besides the Irish Coast Guard, they had dozens of drones up for almost 20 days. So every piece of that property and everything on that perimeter has been covered. Just saying. So, thanks for being here. I hope Mike is found and he just internally combusted, and I hope he's okay. That'd be the best outcome. His animals, his wife, they need him. Kindness. Kindness, compassion, empathy, probably not enough right now in our world. So, if you can, show all of that. Now, just so some of you know, I am going to be gone for most of this week. And I'm on assignment. You'll find out what I'm doing in the near future, but I've got to be gone. So keep watching the movies. I'm going to make sure I load them up every other day for you. And don't worry, I'll be back. But please don't go away. Keep watching. Okay? I appreciate it. Huck appreciates it. Be kind. Paulides out.